about what it's like to be a hotel worker at one of the wealthiest hotels in the country, if not the world. And we talk about what it means to profit off of anybody's misery. When we talk about people over profits, we talk about exactly what we were talking about with One-Term PA Blue. I spent a lot of time in Delco. So, you know, Tim Kearney, Mike Zabel, you know, great people Katie Muth and others who are gonna go into Harrisburg and exactly do that same thing. You can buy corporate ads on TV and try to railroad your way through a political election. Or you can do what we all did, which was knock doors, make a human connection, phone bank, and text, and remind ourselves that politics is fundamentally about all of us. It's fundamentally about people. And what turns people off in America is when we make politics about money, corporate advertising, disgusting ads that we see that are negative and turn people off, and a lack of attention to real issues that people want to talk about. Whether they can live in their homes, whether they hang on to their health care, how will their children be taken care of, the very nature of their families and their livelihoods in an America which is rapidly evolving or maybe devolving along inequitable lines. And I think that, so, you know, I want to talk very briefly about tomorrow, because I think you touched on it a little bit, and, you know, Stan's touched on it a little bit here. We move through what is going to, tomorrow we hope to move through what will be the most expansive stable scheduling bill in the country. It applies to the largest number of workers. Other cities and municipalities, including New York City, have passed a similar law, but limited it only to like fast food workers in New York City, or only to fast food and some retail in Seattle on a much smaller scale. But here in Philadelphia, especially because we're the poorest large city in the country, we are expanding this bill to cover up to 130,000 service workers who will be in the food service, any kind of restaurant, retail industry, and hospitality. And that has a profound impact on people. It has, when we started in on this bill, I wanted to not just win a piece of legislation. I wanted us to change the way we talk about poverty in our city, about the people who have to endure it, and about the companies which profit from it. That is a very difficult thing to do. It's impossible to do, quite frankly, we knew, just even from a legislative angle. And so we go back to all of you. We lift up the stories. We lead with hotel workers who talk about being single parent moms. We talk about young college students who have to make the choice between a job which helps pay for their college or whether to stay in college. And too many of them drop out of school so that they can pay for the stuff that puts food on their table. And we center the voices of organizers and advocates, healthcare workers, educators, social service workers who see what happens throughout all of our communities, who take us out of this idea that work is just about a contractual relationship between an employee and an employer, and that nobody should get involved with it because it's just an HR matter and butt out. When in fact, what we're talking about is a change in our whole society about how people are being treated. Why do we have so much inequality? Why is Philadelphia's poverty so entrenched? And why are we like constantly like grasping at straws, or worse sometimes, just leaning on charity as a crutch to deal with vast problems of poverty, inequity, and profit at the center of all of it? So working together, we turned what was just a simple legislative bill into a major movement, into a major conversation about poverty in our city, about how to change it, and that the people who led it were the people in this room, combined with 50 other organizations across the city, combined with our labor partners and our community partners. And because of that, we took a very reluctant city council, and we're moving them to a place where we're gonna pass this bill on December 6th. I do need you tomorrow, though. I definitely need you tomorrow, because we do have hostile amendments potentially making their way through, unfortunately. And so, but I know that my only question was, as soon as I heard that one of my council colleagues might introduce a hostile set of amendments that would way water down the bill, or effectively make it, you know, basically ineffectual on many different levels. My only question was, are our people going to be there? Because I know if our people show up, there is no way on this earth that any of my council colleagues will vote against it, because they will be looking at each and every one of us, and they will know that justice comes through us, and not through the donations, and not through folks who don't live here, who do not send their children to our schools, who do not pick up the litter off our streets, who don't pay the rents, and they're not here for each and every one of us. So I am here to say that we are moving many things through, but it's also an agenda for the future, that this message that we led with, even amidst the insanity of our federal government and our state legislature. None of us in this room, and some of you have known me for decades and decades, and some of you maybe just meet me for the very first time. But for all of us in this room, none of us ever picked up an issue or an idea or a moment or stood in a moment of justice where we did it because it was the most popular thing to do, because everybody was already with us. You know, we were leading at the front. And when we lead at the front, amazingly, we are gonna lead this city towards a better future. But we cannot do it by dint of just the greatness of our ideas, our indignation and self-righteousness, no matter how strong that may be. We do it with the masses of people that are also with us. And I think that is the most profound lesson. And it was awesome to see the networks. I cannot tell you, when we came to the October 30th Fair WorkWeek hearing, I did not have the votes on City Council Committee. There was a ton of shenanigans. Folks who were there might have noticed that I up and left right in the middle of the hearing and did not come back until for the rest of the hearing, because we were all duking it out in a back room. And one of the things that was being discussed was how far are we going to water down this bill, and we held the line. And the reason why we could hold the line is because 600 people were outside, and everybody knew it. Everybody knew it. And I think in one of the most contested and heated discussions between myself and another council member, I said this coalition would we'd rather pass on this bill than to water it down to where you want it. And he said, so you're telling me you would rather lose? And I said, oh no, I'm not gonna lose, you're gonna vote. And I think that was the thing which changed stuff, because I said, you're gonna vote in front of all those folks who are out there. And we're gonna count those votes, and we're gonna put names to it. And that's what was the difference that backed a lot of people off of amendments that would have otherwise significantly changed the course of that bill. And because of all of you in this room who phone banked, who called, who showed up, who willed it into being, who confronted council members, who called up council members, who leveraged your relationships, you're changing the way we look at things in the city. And not only how we move a bill, but how we move politics in Philadelphia. So we look ahead now to 2019. I will tell you, in Philadelphia, with the kind of turnout that we had, and I think citywide the average was 52.4%, which was historic across the city of Philadelphia. Of course, you saw in pockets huge turnout. We had 18,000 voters in the 8th Ward for 2018 midterm, which was enormous for us. That was 54% turnout, 60% turnout if you count active voters. But it was a boring slate, right? I mean, this was like a standard slate. Mine was all male, so all white and all male. And so it wasn't particularly exciting. So imagine, now what I would say is the next election is our municipals. And we got next, Philly, right? So like, what happens next is like what happens when we have transformative candidates who are on a municipal slate. And I came in with no like rosy colored, rose tinted glasses on about what municipal politics can do. But I do know one thing, that we have to push on the boundaries of our political authority, our municipal authority, and our political power. And when we can do that, we can take the 6th largest city in the country, and we can set standards about improving the minimum wage. So on December 6th, we're gonna raise the minimum wage for city workers to $15 an hour and all the subcontractors by 2021. We're gonna pass the most expansive Fair WorkWeek bill in the country. And we are likely, hopefully, going to pass through the Just Cause legislation that's being led by Councilman Curtis Jones as well, which is a major tenants' rights protection effort in the city of Philadelphia. So those things do not happen unless we move people who can make them happen. None of us has the power within city council to magically make these things happen. I know people say, like, you need great people on the inside, and you definitely do, because you can push the body as far as it can go. But we also need it is all about the external. The more powerful we are on the external, all the possibilities open up on city council. And when the power is waning or non-existent externally, you're left with whoever's on city council to duke it out. So we have a chance in the 2019 municipals to move through transformative candidates, to talk about transformative issues that should be the backbone of a municipalist agenda for progress, change, revolution, transformation, however we want to call it. But it should be a major effort of ours, and that I think people are awake, and that they realize that when we can do these things in Philadelphia, it's not just about one city or this is just local government. It is one of the largest cities in the nation taking a stand against relentless efforts at profit at the expense of people's lives, and upending that narrative and leading with the stories of all of us in this room. So I hope that all the work that we did in the midterms, and that people's very much, our consciousness to the relevance of this moment right now, what it means for us to sit on the sidelines while insanity is happening within our highest powers of government, or any part of government, frankly. And I think people are understanding now that it's not just about Congress or the state legislature, but when those two are dysfunctional, take it down, take it home, and make sure that whatever we do in Philadelphia, we're not fighting Trump in DC if we can't win here in Philadelphia. And we have to show what that agenda looks like. We have to make sure it's driven by people. It has the power to change lives, not 10 years from now, but in the immediate future. And we can truly determine what it means to win. Not just win on a temporal basis, not just win a seat, not just occupy a seat, even worse, but to really win and have people feel like they've made change in their lifetime. And for, as a mom with 3 kids, raising all of them teenagers right now who often wonder, what's this world looking like and can I make a difference? The answer is yes. Whether you're 15, 50, or much more mature and experienced. We have a chance to really make a difference. 2019 is that chance for all of us. Set a citywide agenda, run it as hard as we can in every neighborhood, build out that, and then keep going on to the next thing. So I want to thank Neighborhood Network.